call the Pownal Select Board regular meeting July 11th, 2013 at 7 p.m. The agenda approval of minutes 6:20, special meeting, 6:20 regular meeting, 6:25 special meeting. Warrants, mail, road foreman's monthly meeting, Burrington Road Blacktop, FEMA closeout, old business, Mike Bratcher, BCRC, RE Pownal mitigation plan, FY13 general fund budget adjustments. We have under new business residents' concerns on the VTI MAC event scheduled at Southern Vermont Energy Park. I'd like to touch on the Tannery visit that we had last Tuesday. And we have legal on a tax appeal and Superfund site easements. And I would like to add a personnel involving pay on that also in the executive session. With that, if the board has anything, we'll take a motion.
Make motion.
Motion, all right, need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approval of a minute 6:20, that was a special meeting.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, abstain. 6:20 regular meeting,
So moved.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
6:25 special meeting,
So moved.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, these were accepting bids on blacktopping that we had some issues with, we had to have a special meeting on it. Warrants. Payroll, 623 to 628.13 in the amount of $11,275.17. Payroll 628 to 7513 in the amount of $72.80.28. Payroll 77 to 71213 in the amount of $61.40.43. Accounts payable, 628, in the amount of $31,449.73. You've got health insurance, you've got wastewater business in there, hazardous waste day, are a couple of your larger items in there. Accounts payable, 7513 in the amount of $28,740.61. You have county tax, you have New England Municipal Resource, annual sport agreement, Vermont City Towns and Leagues membership. Those are your largest ones in that particular item. Accounts payable, 71213 in the amount of $73,715.27. You have, your largest one in there is your workers' compensation insurance, commercial package renewal insurance, business and auto renewal insurances. Most of your insurances are in this one, are your larger items. With that are our 6 warrants. I will take a motion.
Motion.
We have a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, with the exception of warrant 1 and 2. Mail. Zoning administrator, 613. Number accepted were 5, number returned 0, 2 permits, garages and houses, 3 for verification. Vermont Department of Taxes, education tax rate for fiscal year 2014 in the amount of 1.3847. That is an increase of 0.02. Homestead tax rate, 1.3143. That is an increase of 0.09. We have a letter from our delinquent tax collector, Ellen. Kevin O'Toole is starting the tax process. At this time, there are approximately 19 properties. He will be holding, or he'll be issuing 30 days letters in July or August. And with that, we have our delinquent tax report. Total amount is $216,456.77, of which you have interest of $25,643.50, penalty of $14,047.23. Delinquent sewer in the amount of $49,049.43. Okay, we have a letter from the chairman of the Planning Commission. It says in December 2012, the Planning Commission submitted its budget for the Select Board approval for the fiscal year 2013-14, which was substantially approved by the legislative body. At this time, the PC was unanimously in its intent to forego our wages to have those wages applied for a raise for our secretary, Julie Weber, bringing her base pay to $2,500 from the previous year of $2,000. The Planning Commission assumed because the Select Board approved the subsequential publishing of the approved budget in the most recent town report that it wishes to be carried out at the beginning of July 1st. We asked for the Select Board to respond to this letter and confirm the request made in December 2012. The only issue I have, I would like to have a meeting of the minds with this. I'll take advice from you guys. And is this a one-time forfeit of their pay? Does this continue on? I'm a little hazy on how that works.
I think we gotta ask for a clarification letter
I would actually,
on how they wanna do this, if it's.
well, I'd like to
shot for
actually
them
have a talk maybe with somebody from that board at our meeting
or that too.
instead of a letter, so we could have a sound.
Or invite the
Answer.
chairman of the planning commission to our meeting.
Right, so we could discuss this.
We could discuss this and,
That would
figure out what
clarify
their
it.
intents are.
Yeah,
Yep.
that sounds the best.
Okay,
Okay.
motion for their chairman to come to one of our meetings at their convenience and give more clarification.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, we have Tuesday, July 16th at 11 o'clock. We have a meeting over at the fire pond with the state treasurer, Pierce, to come down. She was the lady that, with the emergency services projects, that with the, helped with the grants to get this fire pond up and running. So we have a meeting with State Treasurer, Beth Pierce, Bill Batso, myself, Jason Yolowski from the Fire Department, Bennington Rescue Squad, Executive Director. We'll be meeting over there and looking over the fire pond and discussing what took place there.
When's that Wednesday?
It is Tuesday, 9 o'clock. This is a fire pond that we had, and it's been rebuilt to specs, and we did this with the work of a lot of dedicated people, and we were fortunate enough to get grant money to cover these expenses, which is a vital resource to this village. So, kudos to everybody involved in that one, and the meeting will be Tuesday. We have a letter from Green Mountain Renegade Flyers, to whom it may concern. As the president of the Green Mountain Renegade Flyers Model Aircraft Club, I am contacting you regarding requirements for continued use of the old Pownal racetrack. As you know, we regularly use the site to fly large variety of remote-controlled model aircraft. However, after our last 3 days event in June, I was made aware that according to the bylaws and regulations of the town of Pownal, our club was required to apply for an event to use permit. I also understand our continued use of the site for the flying activity requires a conditional use permit. Therefore, I would like to seek advice on what needs to be done to apply for said permits, how long that might take, and if we are allowed to fly in the interim. Lastly, I need to make you aware that we have scheduled another big flying event for the next month, the IMAC Classic, July 27th and 28th. I'm hoping you will allow us to host this event, classic event.
Who was that from?
Who wrote that, Steve?
That is from Angelo Nicarola.
Nicoletta?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him. He didn't write nothing like that.
Okay, would you like to look at that?
No, I'll just call him, and you guys gonna talk about this right now? or-
Yes,
No, it's on for later.
it's
right?
on, yeah, it's
Yeah,
on the
under new
bottom.
business.
That was just on the mail, I wanted to,
Yeah, well, we're gonna talk about the whole thing later.
yep. And that is our mail. Okay, a lighter subject, washout and disasters, our road foreman.
We haven't had too many of those, but
That's why I say a lighter subject.
first thing off the agenda, getting rid of that chunk on shop. These are the two bids I got from people that were interested.
Okay. These, we asked for bids and,
A couple months ago.
yep, for scrap that's over there that we've wanted to get rid of. And we've acquired 2 bids. Okay. Where's your second one? Where'd you go?
Yeah, he was out calling me as well.
So you can read that while we're in between everything else. We get more here, I think. You get that side. Get a little air circulating in here.
Yeah. Well, they're doing that. Good thing I guess they're finally here.
What's that?
I guess good thing they're finally here, I guess, the shirts.
Yeah, I see
Like you
that.
said earlier.
I don't even open it to them.
They're probably black and got a Smith mixer on them. Next time it should be so bad.
They keep us safe, that's what counts.
Well, it should be just a phone call and their orders placed and that's it.
Turn that stuff back down.
Okay, again, we received 2 bids. We have one for the tin and steel from Josh Green in the amount of $1,900. We have one from Joe Strohmeyer in the amount of $1,500. What is the board's pleasure?
That's what they're paying us for, right? That's what they're paying us for.
Yes.
Make the motion to give it to Josh Green.
Okay, we have a motion for Josh Green. We have a second.
One question,
Okay?
to disturb anything, but
Nope, it's
there
time.
was used to be a cardboard press or something over there.
Up on
Is
the hill
that
there.
separate?
Yeah.
He didn't bid on that, right? Okay, then I'm out, okay.
Motion and a
Didn't
second.
want another sticky wicket.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Josh Green will be our man on that. Thank you. Okay,
I told both of them that the only 2 pieces, well, they're gonna have to have a wrecker or something to get the truck that's there, 'cause it's stripped.
Yep.
There's 3 dump bodies, we're just gonna have to help them the loader out.
lift it up and so, yep.
And you'll supervise that, make sure everything's safe and sound. As usual, attaboy.
This, the next thing is blacktop. Blacktop on yesterday, Burrington Road. And maybe later, on the end of next week, we're gonna come up with a plan to do Center Street. So hopefully within 2 weeks that'll be taken care of too.
Gotta speak up.
Evidently, I must have to.
Yeah.
How are we doing with roads washed out or,
There's some shoulders that are
Erosions.
washed. When you get rain like that, I don't care what you do. It's just they're just gonna wash. And we've been doing some repairs of that stuff and going back and cleaning culverts that we cleaned a month ago.
what I did notice, and I know you've run into this, and this may be a good time while the Planning Commission is talking with the ZA about different improvements in their function of the town plan and doing permits, driveway issues. We've had a couple issues with driveways, new ones that are, for layman's term, maybe not installed as well as they could be or properly to prevent problems.
Or maintained. I mean, they run into the same thing that we run into. When you've got a driveway that's 150 feet long and the water runs right down the wheel ruts and takes a lot of your material along with it. Ends up either on the neighbor's property or plugging a culvert 200 feet down the road. There is some legal statutes that address that, and there is bylaws that other towns have adopted. And that's what I'm looking into now is trying to find a best fit for us. Stormwater, low impact stormwater maintenance,
Right, that would go with a driveway permit.
driveways, any kind of property that's
Yep.
that's interfering with the town right of way or the neighbor's property.
Yep. What I'm more curious about at this point is not going backwards as much as going forward with new driveways on a permit. If we could somehow get some wording that these things,
I got a bylaw recorded on my computer, and as soon as Clint comes over to make both the computer and the printer compatible, I can print that stuff off and email it, maybe even be able to email it at some point.
okay, because if we could work with the planning board to kind of relook at this situation, because we're having new driveways put in, and if we've got a problem, it'd be nice to correct it with the new ones as we go forward. And at least correct it at that point.
I understand that it's hard to maintain your property when you get this much rain.
Absolutely.
It's one whack, but not only are you depositing the sediment on the shoulders of the road or in the culvert that crosses the road, you're also disturbing your neighbor's property
Right.
in a lot of cases.
Yep.
So that's what the bylaw or the policy will entail.
Okay. Yeah, when you get something like that, throw it across to us and we can look at it and maybe talk with the PC and what's admirable to work forward with this. Hopefully Mother Nature be nice to us a little bit, but since it's been brought to our attention, it would be nice to kind of improve it if we can a little bit. So,
You may already have something like this, but Sandgate worked with their local fire department in terms of driveway standards to make sure that their emergency vehicles could access them too, in terms of their width and grade and that kind of stuff. That might be something to throw in too, if you don't already have that. And they have a bylaw that you could probably download from their website.
We don't have any dimensions on the width of somebody's driveway, but we do have dimensions on how far back the culvert has to be
Right,
away from the edge of the road. And
They were concerned about the steepness.
yeah,
Really
we've
steep driveways that a fire truck couldn't get up.
we've certainly got some of them. When up in Welch development and stuff like that, when there's been issues, it's been
oh yeah,
disastrous for the emergency personnel.
we're going to be talking here very shortly here. So unless you got some questions or whatever, I'm all done. I'm
I do.
set.
We need to get back to Blacktop down on Burrington Road. Mike, it's time to close out FEMA
That was last of the FEMA projects that,
soon.
yeah,
The deadline is like 14 days.
it's a couple days, Saturday.
Remember what we had to do?
They just need to
Sign
be
the paper.
contacted and they need to come down and take a look and
Need an inspection and.
Let 'em know that it
file
was
the
right.
final paperwork.
that it was, you know,
Okay. Good.
Bridge repair start now.
excuse me.
The bridge.
They actually come down, they took samples of the concrete to see just how hard it was. And they did the saw cuts on both sides. They had 3 days in Lingo. They were working on another project. And they got held up for some reason. So they came down and they started it. Back for a couple of weeks. They got one project that was going that they had to finish first.
When that project goes on, the bridge there, how much of a disruption is that gonna be? I've had people ask me.
It'll be a one-lane situation, well signed, and they will have flaggers for every hour that they're working there. It's just the hardest part's going to be coordinating with the guys that are actually working on the bridge versus the guys that are doing the approaches. I'm going to try to get them to commingle it, to try to do them both at the same area so they're not disturbing.
Well, the people on the other side of the
Right.
river, of course, were nervous.
Yep.
Says, well, I'm sure they're gonna be one side at a time.
And emergency personnel are notified of that.
They will when it starts, yes. Also, stream alteration engineer wanted to call when the bridge project started too. It will be well signed.
Okay.
Okay, all set?
All the questions we got.
Okay,
You got some more information for us.
I'd like to wrap stuff up for an hour, but,
yep.
trouble.
You can sit and you can come right back in the conversation in a few minutes if you'd like. Okay, thank you, Casey. Mike, we will let you come forward, BCRC.
Well, thanks for having me. I think I came here once before and talked to you about the idea of a hazard mitigation plan. And since then, we've been working on those with some of the other towns. And Linda and Casey and I had a meeting 2 months ago, I think, where we identified what we would need to do to develop a hazard mitigation plan. And so I want to remind you and refresh your memories about what this is all about. Basically, this is a document that identifies the types of hazards that might affect a community like Pownal and what kinds of actions could be taken to address them. And some of those actions could be preparedness actions, and some of them could be actions where you basically make some kind of a capital improvement to deal with it. What I did is I tried to develop a one-pager of kind of what the kinds of stuff that's in one of these things.
Thank you.
And some of it's pretty straightforward, like brief profile of the town and the planning process and the like. And another part is an identification of potential hazards. And you'll see a list of those in that little table. Where most of those come from is the state has a hazard mitigation plan, and we can use a lot of the information in that as a basis. What these plans do, they help you identify what kinds of events, and probably flooding is one of the major ones, that affect Pownal, what areas are affected, and are there actions that you might take that might reduce the potential hazard or that might reduce potential damages. A common one is resizing of culverts or bridges that may get repeatedly damaged. Another one that's been used in some communities, again, if there's a willing landowner whose property has been damaged numerous times, it's possible to get money from FEMA to purchase land or purchase the house so that it doesn't keep having to be repaired. What the advantages for the town are that it's you could sort of almost think of this as kind of an enlarged grant application. There are grants. We're in the 5th round now of hazard mitigation grants following Irene. If you have one of these plans, you're eligible to get money if you apply for a grant and that's approved. The second is it can, among other things, allow you to use something called the community rating system, for which you get various points through FEMA, and that will help reduce people's flood insurance rates. If there's many things you can do, one of which is to do one of these things, and it may not reduce them a whole lot, but it could reduce them a bit. And it's not just, it's basically anyone in the town would be able to take advantage of that. And the third thing is the state has recently passed regulations that have to do with their share of funding to match FEMA funding. So FEMA usually provides 75% and local matches 25%, but the state has been matching part of that. They will match more if you have one of these. They will match less if you don't have one of these. So, and that's to take place over the next couple of years. They're giving towns some time to do that. Pownal especially, one of the things you'll see in that document, there's sort of an assessment of hazards, which has been my task. I've been working on that slowly. And just to give you an idea of what that kind of thing looks like, this is sort of a description of winter storm events. So we look at the kinds of events that have affected the town. You actually have a weather cooperative weather observer in the town that helps provide a lot of good information. But there's some interesting stuff, like, here's just I know you can't read this, but you just see that there's a whole lot of rows here of brush fires. You probably had like a third of the brush fires in the whole county in Pownal. For whatever reason, people like to have brush fires. And another one that I thought was interesting is hazardous material spills. There's a whole database and that kind of stuff. And you've had quite a few of those over the years too.
Good God. I wouldn't have expected we'd had either one of them that in any large volume.
I was surprised too. And obviously you have a lot of properties. I think I made some calculations. You have something like 170 houses or homes that are in one or more flood zones. So you have I think you have the most of any town in the county. So there's a lot of, I don't want to have to run out the door and make it sound like it's dangerous to live in Pownal.
No, I think we can agree with you there. I'm still stuck on the brush fires and the hazardous spills.
Yeah, so I think it's a good idea. It doesn't, what the key for these things is that ultimately when they are completed, you send it to FEMA and they have to approve it. So they review and approve it. And then it's your plan to adopt. So that's one requirement that's different than most plans, is that you're having a federal agency. You're not obligated to do the things. In other words, if you say what we need to do is rebuild X bridge, if you don't do it, if you can't get the funding for it, nobody's going to come in and get you. But it does help you identify things that may be priorities or that could be used if funding's available. And it doesn't have to be from a FEMA source, it could be a state source. Because if the state has fundings, you can hand it to them and say, well, we identified this as something needed to get done, and Town X didn't go through that effort, it might give you a leg up somewhere.
We have several that we're working on
Yeah.
from the storms related from FEMA and previous that have failed before, different culverts that we're improving upon. How does that fall into this particular program?
I think this might be a place where, if nothing else, it gets written down someplace that you can say these are your priorities, and then every couple of years you come back to it and go, well, were they still priorities or did we get them done? Or
So it shows a log of where our priorities are, what we've accomplished.
It's good to do that, especially, sometimes there's turnover and sometimes people forget what was thought of
Right.
before. So, in my mind, it's always a good idea to kind of track how you're doing and what you're doing. In terms of the key, and BCRC can provide most of the technical work in terms of GIS mapping and the like. What FEMA really likes, and I think I agree that's important, is that the public is involved. That people can, if people aren't interested or not, it's not important, that's up to them, but at least we can involve them if they want to. Sure. But really, local knowledge is key. You could look at this kind of information and go, well, that 1976 storm, that was a real big one. I would have no idea. And that's the kind of information we need to be able to say, or during Storm X, this road was flooded.
Yep.
And that begins to paint a picture that we can use to then say, oh, well, maybe that's something that needs...
Right. And look for reoccurrences.
As you've just been talking about, things seem to be happening more often because we seem to be in maybe this is just summer, but I think something like the 5 rainiest years on record in the Northeast occurred since 2000. So it seems to be a trend.
It's more of a current event than...
Yeah. So I would hope that we could, once I get through my section, that our team could get together again. We could probably have this hammered out by the fall, I think. And it might need some warned meetings so that there's a record that it's been
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
we can put information on our website for people to look at too.
Yep. How are you feeling, guys? I think this is a worthwhile event.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Good.
absolutely.
You're good with it?
Information is always good.
As soon as I get this all done, I'll give this to you and Linda, and then we can figure out where to go from there. Because this is just getting basically the technical background together, and then I need you guys to look at that and
You
go.
want to do that before any of the meetings are warned.
We could do that at a warrant meeting.
Okay.
We could just sit there and then other people, especially if you know people who really know the history of the town, want to come and look at this and go, oh, you missed this one, or, oh yeah, that was a big one. Those are the kinds of things where that did extra. I find sometimes if you say to someone, well, what was the biggest storm? They'll go, oh. But if you show them, they'll go, oh yeah, I remember that one in 1985.
Yeah, jog their memory a little
Yeah,
bit.
I mean, because I don't remember. I was talking to somebody today. I said, do you remember what this past winter was like? And yeah, we didn't get as much snow as normal, but I don't think we could ever. Maybe you could identify what dates of the biggest snowstorm of this past winter.
Well, I don't know. I know it's the last 15 years. I can tell you the worst one.
Okay, well, great. That's the kind of stuff we need. So, I think once I get this down, I should have this down another week.
And will we all get a copy of that?
The plan?
You know, like you.
Oh yeah, you can have
have
anything you want. It's just like this has kind of got some holes in it, so I just brought this to kind of show and tell.
Sure.
I've been working on this little by little. I mean, I was actually surprised about the hazardous spills, and it took me a while to go through this and
Yeah.
sort through it. And
Of course, it doesn't take much to,
Where did you get that
unfortunately.
information from?
there's actually I'll send you. There's a website you can search by any town. Most of it's like they're pumping oil into somebody's oil tank, and it
Yep. Or a hydraulic line blew and they're
yeah
putting
that
wire
exactly
and, yep.
Where did I get it?
yeah it's transformers.
Yep.
But there were quite a few, and then I looked at some of the other towns, like Shasbury is comparable size, and they had you had like something like 70 events, they had like 50. So Bennington, the town obviously would have a lot, but it was interesting. I'll send you the link. It's interesting. You can search through what's there. I mean, obviously it gets fuzzier as you go further back in time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't usually trust anything when I see it in that online unless it came from 1990 onwards. So. And that's kind of slim. So, but anyway, that's
It's interesting, yeah.
yeah. But the other key is the kinds of actions that you all think are important. Again, be trying to be as specific as possible is what we might be able to do.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll get together soon.
Okay.
Can you send me
Thank you.
that website too? Can you send me that website too, where you got
Oh yeah, I'll get. How about if I get the? Well, I'll get. Yeah, I have your website. I'll make sure Linda gets it too, so you can distribute it. Yeah. I'll send you my list of scary websites. All right, thanks a lot. You guys have a nice night.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, next on under old business, FY13 general fund budget adjustments. We need to adjust general fund. We need a motion to adjust 7913 in the amount of $4,804.91. I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We also have a general fund adjustment in the amount of $3,620.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay. Before we, residents' concerns on Energy Park scheduling, I'd like to just, if I could, slide just our visit up, because it'll only take a second. The board has no problem with moving that just for a minute.
Is it?
It's a visit we did down to
Oh,
Tannery.
all right, yeah.
Okay, it's only a second just to announce that. Tuesday, we had to visit to the Tannery Dam. Chris Richa, and Commissioner DPS, Darren Springer, Deputy Commissioner DPS, Bill Scully, which is the hydro developer, Dorian Forney, the planning board, Senator Bob Hartwell, Representative Bill Botso, Representative Brian Champion, and Ron and myself were down there to look over the site, look over the dam and the situation around there, and everybody was quite impressed. It was a nice day, and I think everybody that looked at it were pretty impressed with what they saw, so that was just a quick follow-up on who was there and what we did that particular day. So, with that said, now we can go on to resident concerns, REVT, impact event scheduled at Southern Vermont Energy Park. That's whoever wants to be the speaker. Get my crap in order here, thank you.
So I know that you're busy. I would just like to take maybe 5 minutes of your time to talk about this.
Absolutely.
Oops, I think there's another one if anybody wants to look at it.
Would you announce your name just so
Sure.
people out there in television land know what's...
My name is Mark Friedman. I recently moved to Pownal. I live on Northwest Hill Road, and I'm here representing the newly formed Peaceful Valley Association. And we have an email address which is info@peacefulvalleynow.org. The other night I was just by accident came across this, I think you might have, it's in there on one of your pages, VTI MAC event. And when I read there are no noise restrictions and we can fly 24 hours a day, I realized that something had to be done. This is not fair. You know,
Can I interrupt you just for a minute? Because I had not seen this before I come over this evening also. I'm going to read some of this just so everybody knows what this kind of says, because the wording does bother me too. And I've seen the events down there, and this kind of went against what I've seen happening there, so I'm really not sure, and I'm sure we'll have discussions on it. It says, this may be listed as the best venue for IMAC this year. There are no noise restrictions and we can fly 24 hours a day. So bring your night flying equipment. Sun comes up behind the mountain, so it will be blocked until almost 11 and sets behind us, so we can fly till ? All are welcome to complete in this first Green Mountain Renegade Impact event. We host all 5 classes with unknowns for all classes. We'll host a lunchtime freestyle competition on Sunday, and all are welcome to participate. For first-time pilots, we'll review the sequences, flight line, and any other questions. Any plane qualifies for basic. From foamy to 40%er, participants must have fun. I was concerned with the beginning of this, and maybe at this point just ask some of the representatives from this club
I can explain.
on that first statement alone.
Yes, I understand. Here's the thing with the no noise
First of all,
requirement.
could you state your name?
My name's
So-
Scott Lyons. I was the former president of the Green Mountain Renegade Flyers. Angela Nicoletta is now. The no noise regulation isn't. That's for a competition base only. These guys, when they compete, they actually do sound scores on the aircraft. In other words, they're scored on sound of their aircraft as well. In other words, the quieter the aircraft is, the better score they get. In some competitions, they don't do the scoring, so there would be no louder than what we are on an average weekend. We are the loudest that place will be on a weekend. That's the loudest it can be. These guys have $10,000 airplanes where they have tune pipes, cans, 3-blade props. You're not even going to know these guys are down there, for one. They're going to be so far under what we usually do on a weekend, it's not even going to be funny. The no noise requirement means they're not going to test for noise at the event. Doesn't mean they're changing any equipment on the airplane, because, like I said, they're $10,000
It says restrictions.
airplanes.
It says no noise restrictions.
Exactly, on the aircraft. In other words, these guys aren't going to be subsidized to a decibel reading for the contest in terms of points. They won't be deducted for points for how loud their aircraft is. Their aircraft cannot be. Our aircraft that we fly there on the weekends are the loudest you'll get them. That's it.
Can I,
And they're gonna be-
if no one's been there, can I
Yep, let
play
me,
a 30-second piece of what it sounds
yep,
like in our
I'm gonna
living
let you
room?
rebuttal all this. This is not a problem.
Thank you.
I wanted to get the basics on this, because reading this as a layman's terms, no noise restrictions. We can fly 24 hours a day.
Right. The night flying is 99.9% electric aircraft. You won't hear them. You'll see them. They'll be light. There'll be glow green and stuff like that. I do have a gas airplane that is lit up for night. I do usually 1 or 2 flights, which are 10 minutes apiece after dark. There's no laws against it. It's fun. It's for the event. I did it for our event as well. You know, I flew once or twice at our event at night,
Twice.
and that was it. And
2 night
it's for
flights.
fun. People, they love it. It's awesome. You know what I mean? It's
Because there is, obviously, after 10 p.m.,
Right.
a noise
right, and it's dark before that. I think
element.
I think I flew
a
at
decimal
8:30.
element after, I think it's what, 8 in the morning till 10?
Till 10.
Right.
But
But-
this is a nuisance. We're talking about a noise nuisance.
Right, if it breaks the certain decimal thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm worried about the wording here, and I think this is what
And that's been changed
stirred
on their
everybody.
website, Steve. He actually,
Yeah.
Chick called them and they changed it on the website
Okay.
so people won't get upset. Because if you're not a pilot, you don't understand the no
Exactly.
noise restrictions
Yes.
and the night flying. You don't
And
understand
I
that.
didn't understand this, and this
Right.
threw me a little bit of a curve,
And,
too.
and I understand that, and I explained that to Eric, and he changed it so that
And 24 hours a day, is that hard to misunderstand too?
no, it's fine.
They
we can
can't
fly.
fly. Electrics 24.
Electric's
Electrics make no
24 hours a
noise
day.
whatsoever.
Why not?
Okay, why can't you limit the night flying to just electrics then?
Because the gas thing is new, and it's like I said, it's only 1 or 2 flights. You're talking 10 minutes. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah, but
these
I
planes
don't-
are generally.
Can I just play what we're talking about? I don't think you can appreciate what it
Well,
sounds
I've
like.
been
in
down
my-
there and
no,
I've
no, in my
watched them
house. No, no,
fly
in
and-
my house, I would like to just have like 30 seconds to a minute to play
Okay.
what it sounds like. I
Okay,
have
give us a
decimal meter.
time frame on when this was recorded, when you did this.
I have it. I mark it. It's 9 o'clock at night, and it's written.
Okay.
It says so on the.
All right, just so we're all familiar with what's,
Yeah, and you did fly till 9:48 that one night.
The event.
What time?
9:48.
Oh, if it's the weekend of the event, we already had permission from you guys to do what we want on the weekend of our event. I mean, that was already set up before. The only time we set a time schedule was on normal weekends, not during the event. You guys gave us a free card on the event. I remember that. Yes, you did.
Do you ask us for permission?
Not you. When Pamela was
you weren't
involved,
here.
you're new to the town. You don't understand what it was before.
we did have a meeting here once before, several
we'll
months
get to
ago.
that. So I'm just gonna see if I can set the volume at what it sounds like in our house. I recorded it with this, which is nowhere near the annoyance that you actually hear. So,
And what time was this at?
just after 9.
I doubt that. I got the only plane what time. There's 2 planes flying there.
Planes flying.
So, what one person might find really enjoyable for a sound,
This was
another
a month
people
ago.
find quite annoying.
Right.
I have some reasons and some things that I would like to say about the sounds. It's universally uncontested and accepted that noise induces stress, and that stress is a major factor for multiple physical and health issues. The former Surgeon General, Dr. William H. Stewart, said that calling noise a nuisance is like calling smog an inconvenience. Noise must be considered a hazard to the health of people. There's a couple that I know that now live in Bennington. She rents from me in Williamstown. They were looking at Deborah Nichols' parcel that isn't advertised, but it's at the end of my driveway. They're willing to tell you in writing that they will not buy property there because of this noise. They have one young child. For my own house, my significant other that I love more than anyone else in the world, it's annoying, isn't it?
No, I mean, is this the height of what we're listening? Because
It started at 8 in the morning, 7:59.
but I would like to,
I would
yes.
like to turn it off too.
okay,
That's my point.
because we can't talk and over-talk that, because I want everybody to have their say, but we don't need any more background than we need.
And that's exactly my point. You can't, in our house, that's what it sounds like. Now, Wendy, who I love more than anyone else in the world, is a family practice doctor. She's often on call on a Saturday evening. The phone will ring 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. On Monday morning, she gets up at 5:30, leaves for work at 6:30. Sunday afternoon, she has to take a nap. She can't sleep with that. If she's up at the night, she deals with life and death issues. This isn't, for you guys, it's fun. For us, it's not fun. For us, it affects our life. We can't live a normal life with this sound. They can fly on a Wednesday morning, they can fly anytime. There's no regulation for when.
You mean while we're working?
See, what I think the issue here is a meeting of the minds again. Is it an illegal gathering?
Yes, it is.
Is it? No. What I'm trying to say, is there an illegal session going on? Is there something they're breaking the law doing within the standards of the decimal ratings, the event being held, or is it a general nuisance?
No, it's a noise nuisance.
I
and
know.
You can regulate noise nuisances.
Well, you can to a limit. I mean,
Right.
this is an industrial, was an industrial area.
It's not an industrial area anymore. If this is correct, it's
Well-
zoned village. Is that correct?
I think there's partials down there that are industrial.
In this book, it's zoned village. If this is not correct, you
I
need
think
to
we
tell
checked
me.
that before, and the front of that is what we're using it for. Yeah.
It says it's zoned village.
Well, I know there's different setups down there, and I won't argue that point.
That's right, because it is correct.
But noise-wise, and I've run into certain instances before also, and through the state of Vermont, on any kind of noise, there actually is very little limitations in the certain hours before 10 o'clock at night. Because I registered a complaint a few years ago myself on some very serious noise that I thought was disturbing, and I was quite surprised to hear that there was nothing that could be done. So what I'm trying to say, is this illegal in the sense, or is it just annoying? And annoying, you know, everybody has a different way of what's annoying. You know,
Okay.
I'm not saying to you that you're picking on them or they're picking on you. I'm saying you may hear a car go by with a loud muffler and say, damn, that's annoying. And somebody else that's a car nut can say, boy, that sounded great.
Okay, I have the legal definition of nuisance here. And you should in front of you as well. If you don't, I'll have another copy. A private nuisance is an interference with a person's enjoyment and use of his land. Actually, I'm gonna get the one that I highlighted so that I can not have to read you the whole thing, just read the parts that are more relevant. Or not. And the judge of what's a nuisance is to determine whether an interference is substantial. Courts apply the standard of an ordinary member of the community with normal sensitivity and temperament. When these 40 people who signed a petition last year and came before you and said, this is bothering our lives, we're not going to fix up our house, one woman said, because I have to sell and I'm not going to get my money back because of the nuisance. Someone else that I know, when the planes start flying, they leave their house. They won't stay in the house when the planes are flying because it drives them crazy. Somebody else in the association said they can't ride their horse when they're flying. Someone else said their dogs start barking. Do you want me to go on, or do you get the idea? This is not fun for us. This is affecting our life.
So let me, if I may, just ask a question here. How many weekends a year do you fly?
We haven't been down there since our event, actually. We've been away every weekend. There's been one guy down there, I think 2 weeks ago, he flew for like an hour with a large plane. But the smaller planes fly there all the time because
The electrics.
the electrics and the small nitro, they're not loud at all. You can't even hear them. You can barely hear them at the property line.
This is a club.
This is a club.
How many weekends a year do you fly there?
I couldn't tell you the exact weekends. We
Whenever
start
they
in-
want. We
when it
never
starts to get
know.
night.
Okay, well-
Is it my turn?
No.
When it gets nice out is when we start flying. And then we fly, and then we go, like, starting in May is when the events start. We're gone for 2 weeks in May to South Carolina. Then we come back, it's almost every single weekend until fall that we're not here.
Excuse me?
And we've only been flying on Sundays.
Can I add in? My name's Corinne Lubeck, and for 3 years you've been down there almost every weekend. You say that, but from April till December, there's somebody that flies down there on Sundays. I can give you a list of all your Sundays last year, and it's not just a few of them throughout
Well, when
the
you,
summer.
well,
And I'd be glad to provide that.
And understand when we fly, it's 10, 12 minutes at a time, maybe 3 or 4 times a person, you know what I'm saying? There's 4 guys with giant scale planes, so they're only talking actual flying time around 2 hours, 2.5 hours. We may be there a long time, but the actual time we're in the air is 2.5.
But it's 15 minutes, 10
Around
minutes to
there. It's
refuel.
10,
You're back
yeah.
up for 15 minutes from 12 o'clock to 8:30,
Right, like I
9
said,
o'clock in
it's-
the summer. 8 hours during the day when you're trying to be in your yard, in your house, you have to listen to this on and off.
Okay. What happened, we had a meeting, last year, I believe.
Yep. August 30th,
There was a meeting
2012.
of the minds where everybody was gonna kind of try to talk together and resolve.
Nobody ever called me.
Excuse me, I called you, Scott, and I left a message on your answering machine, and nobody got back
You
to
left a
me.
message one night to complain because we went 5 minutes over to 6
let's
o'clock.
make this an agreeable flying season, and Nelson agreed to be the mediator in a conversation, and that's what I said.
I honestly
'Cause I-
don't remember that.
Because you probably just didn't.
Cause I'm wondering legally, there may be legal status, I don't know.
I brought it here for you.
Well, you know, the first thing I picked out on that, it said the selectmen may. Doesn't say the select board has to enact ordinances. It
And it
says
also needs
select board may.
But if you look at page 16 in the select board's responsibilities, it says the select board may, you're right, enact ordinance and rules in many areas. I don't understand why you're not trying to protect the people that are paying taxes and being bothered by this in Pownal. Do you know, there's also a list that I included of where they can fly. They can fly in Hoosick Falls, they can fly in North Adams, they can fly in Bennington. There's 2 pages of lists
There's
of
no
where
club
they
in-
can fly.
There's no club in North Adams or Bennington. And
You
Hoosick
fly
Falls
there.
is our old club.
In
Can't
North
fly there.
Adams, they fly down by the miniature golf course.
Not anymore.
No,
That's
no.
the club I used to be a member of. That's the Tunnel City Brook Flyers, and they started a club down here 18 years ago. They were the first club at the racetrack for 18 years ago. From 92 to 95, they had a flying club there, and people have been flying there ever since.
In Title 24, it says that the select board is to define what constitutes a public nuisance. How many people have to come in here
Well,
and tell you that their lives are being ruined for you to agree that it's a nuisance? That's my
I'm not
question.
arguing with that, but
I went
suppose your neighbor burns wood and every Sunday decides to use a chainsaw and cut 3 cords of wood. You know, what are you going to tell him? You can't burn wood?
No,
know.
the standard is what reasonable people would say. There's a gravel pit across the road. How many people have come up here and said, we don't want the gravel pit?
Let me stop you there on the reasonable person part. I'm irritated about this letter that came in from Angela Nicoletta. I don't know who sent that letter. I talked to Angela on the phone. That's a forged thing, and we're going to find out who sent that letter, and someone's going to be in trouble. And I will tell you one thing. You came down 2 days before our event and talked about permit this and permit that. That whole letter that was supposedly written by Angelo, all it talks about is permits. Whatever you say right now means nothing to me because that is a falsified letter, and there's.
I'm not talking about the letter.
I'm
Did I
talking about it
mention
because
the
you said
letter?
reasonable person. Reasonable people don't send letters in other people's names
So you're
to make it
accusing me
look
of something?
like they,
Are you
Go
accusing me of
easy,
something?
guys, let's keep
That's
this, as-
accusations and they're unfounded, so.
yeah,
Well,
let's try to
I can
keep
tell
it
you for a
calm
fact that
because,
letter was not written by Angelo Nicoletta or sent to the town to wherever it was sent to.
okay, let's,
I'm not talking
That's
about the
false.
letter.
okay.
I'm talking about how this
I went back
impacts
up.
our lives.
I'm gonna back up one little 2 steps now. You're calling it a nuisance here, but yet you just named off 5, 6 spots. They can go fly in Hoosick Falls, right in the village. You don't care about that.
No, they have a club and it's out in the country side, I imagine.
Where he's talking about they're flying in North Adams, that's almost right in the village.
It's in a very open area. It's like next to Walmart.
I mean,
I would like to see,
this is very tough for the select board because I realize you're a taxpayer. And,
But-
But so is the racetrack.
And-
Everybody's a taxpayer.
Right.
So am I.
Paying our taxes.
So's the gravel
Our
pit.
taxes.
So am I.
And so is he. And a lot of the club members are property owners in this town. And it's not just adults, it's young kids down there that these guys are teaching how to fly. Now, would you rather have them learn how to fly from these kids or go to Bennington or someplace like that and learn something else? They're enjoying what they're doing.
But their enjoyment has an effect on other people. And I'm going to tell you
that
this,
hill has
it's going to
an effect,
affect the
too.
property value there. If this event goes on, the property value, I talk to realtors, and there's no question that the property values will be affected. And there's no question that people will try to get their taxes reduced with legal counsel. And that
Not-
will affect everybody
not
else.
to be argumentative, but being the type of facility that is, how would you feel? This is just hypothetical, I'm not trying to be argumentative. How would you feel if a racetrack went back in there?
Well, if a racetrack went back in here, they would have to follow, as you mentioned, the rules in the book.
Because I was here as a
Which is
lot
what
of
we're
these
doing.
people were when the
So
racetrack was there.
you've applied for a permit for this event?
Don't need a permit.
Did you know that this town voted overwhelmingly for a casino here? Overwhelmingly, they voted for a casino with all the bells and whistles and everything else. And I think, I hear the thing about property values until I get sick of it, because everything we're going to bring there affects the property values around it. Everything affects it. Well, they do fly until October, but then you got all of the last part of October, November, December, January, February, March, April, and most of May until they start flying again. And they've been, I can't tell you how great they've been there. Do you know that one of their men stopped a guy shooting the lights out that was aimed at your house? Did you know that? They were shooting the lights that were up there. And he went out and stopped it. The guy took off.
That has nothing to do with what we're
no.
talking about.
If the bullet came through your house, you'd be down here screaming at me about a bullet just came from our property. And
Okay.
they're protecting
We're
the property.
getting
and
off the
everything else.
point here.
Okay.
There's got to be a way, without putting more rules and regulations, that we've got to invent to make more rules, because we'd have to go against these decimal readings,
No.
which are,
It's very clear in the book. There's nothing ambiguous about this.
well, if they're not breaking a decimal thing, to my knowledge, they're not breaking that law.
It's a public nuisance. You don't think, if you live there and you heard that for
It's a
14 hours?
public nuisance, all right? Not being disrespectful, it's a public nuisance for you or who lives there. It's not a public nuisance for me, because I don't live there. But would it be if it was another sort of event down there?
There's another,
When the Lollapalooza show was down there, would that be considered a public nuisance?
it was for a lot of people in town, that's why you didn't let any more in, as far as I could tell. People were
I don't
camping
know.
out
I
all
don't
over the
know.
place.
Never denied one.
I'm not sure where you got that information, but I'm gonna tell you, that's wrong.
Let
Good
it
thing
go
you weren't
again.
around. The track was open.
That's very wrong,
Lights on
because
until 11?
even people that were skeptical about that found that
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 worked out.
actually went out
I
very
don't know,
well.
it's just,
I
that's-
worked that show 23 hours, and trust me, that was pretty decent.
there can be things,
Love to
there's
have another
development. We're not against development.
No, but what I'm
It's a
saying
particular-
is,
let me tell you something about noise. When a mosquito flies near your ear, if you're me, like you want to slap your head.
it's annoying.
It's annoying. It's a nuisance. A legal nuisance.
When a motorcycle and a
this
Harley
is.
goes up
Does
the
the noise
road,
hurt or does the bite hurt?
well, the noise, because you know you're gonna get bit.
Right.
Excuse me, you just talked about a Harley and the noise, and that's a one time or maybe a bunch going by, but imagine that all day long, on and off for 8 hours.
Right.
Yep.
And they
How
do
about
fly
2-mile-long
in April
trains
till
8 times a
December.
day?
Well,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
I
They
got-
say what they say, but it's not true.
No.
I believe you're new in town. You bought, what's her name?
Pam's.
Pam's. Well, Pam had my phone number, and she called me up screaming about the flies. I called Scott, and he says, there's nobody there. So I call a fellow that lives there part-time. He said, we got motorcycles out here going up and down the town road like you can't believe. And even Steve saw the rubber marks there, I believe, last year, Steve, where they burned out and everything. But they were, let me finish. They screech louder than those planes ever hoped to be. And there was like 20 of them down there all afternoon videoing themselves doing wheelies, everything else. And she thought it was the planes automatically. And and I'm saying, I went down, it was motorcycles. And we can't keep them off the town road. We cannot keep them off that town road, no matter how hard we try.
But where we're at is what we have to do is what constitutes a nuisance and what's controllable. And like I said, not being there, I heard that, I've seen the planes go over by driving by, but are they breaking the standard law of now wait a minute, the standard law of this decimal rating, which apparently they're not.
Wait.
So it's a nuisance in one's eyes, but it's not breaking.
And it's got a beginning and an end.
Right.
So
So
you're saying that
I'm saying, if somebody sat next to you with a stereo cranked up, full bore, in the hours of, I think it's 8 to 10, There's no ordinance on that.
It's proving a point.
And it's, I mean, as
So,
much,
so
as
you're,
much,
you're saying
There you
that
go.
as a select board,
mow the lawn.
you're choosing not to represent the citizens that are being affected by this.
you're asking us to represent a small section of citizens
That live there.
that live there,
here.
okay. but
Most of the people
what-
coming are
How
not
do we
living here.
represent the rest of the people? If we put ordinances in saying you can't do this, you can't say, you and you can't do this, you can do it. How do we break
That's
this mold saying, okay, you can't put up a fence in your yard, but the guy down the road can?
We're not talking about fences, we're talking
I know
about what
we're not,
reasonable
but-
people would
Right.
find
And that's
to be
why we have
a nuisance,
what we've got.
a legal nuisance. This
Well-
is your select board. I made you a copy of the front.
I'm aware since we've been there,
I regret it.
but what I said again, if somebody stayed
Mentions
next to
noise.
you, you're not listening. If somebody was
I
next to your,
can't hear
your
so well
neighbor.
from the sounds.
I know, we have all sorts of sounds. If you have somebody next door to you with a boombox out front cranked right up, that's gonna be annoying.
It's going to be a nuisance, and you can regulate that. Many towns do
Can you?
regulate it.
How you gonna regulate it?
I'd like you to explain that one to me, because we've gone through that and you can't do it. There's no, unless it's after 10 at night.
Have you not read this rule?
I've called the state police. I've had these issues before. We've dealt with
This
things.
is not the first noise complaint
It's
we've
the
had in the
first
town
time
of
that they've
Pownal.
had an event down there.
But you, as a
It's not
select
the
board,
first time, this is the third event. They had one last year. They
Yeah, we said it's not the
had one
first
this
time.
year.
Said it's
Right.
not the first time.
It's not the
Okay,
first
sorry.
time.
Not the first time.
What I would like to see,
This event coming is going to be a lot quieter. These guys, like I said, 3-blade props, quiet pipes.
but
What-
it's
Less
Wednesday
people.
they arrive, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
what
Sunday.
I would
It's
like to
5
see,
days.
we can sit here for an hour and trash this. We're gonna get nowhere. I can guarantee you.
I would like you to make a motion to do something about it.
I'm gonna make a motion right now that you and the group of flyers get together as a meeting. Have a meeting of the minds. This is the best solution.
That's not a solution. Scott said we can do whatever we want, whenever we want it.
That's not what I
what
said.
it absolutely is.
I'm gonna tell you right now, if the people involved on one side or the other are not willing to talk, then you're right, there's a problem, and it won't be resolved.
He's been
I
down.
would,
I've talked
I would,
to him
I
for
would
half an
like
hour.
to have you people as a group sit down over coffee, iced tea, whatever.
Excuse me, I'd like to have a mediator, so it's not he said, she
That would,
said,
that
they
would,
said,
that
you
would be
said.
fine.
That would be nice.
That would, it'd probably be our zoning administrator, which would be sharper on different zoning requirements and up on the law a little better than some of us are. And I think it'd be great. Maybe it won't amount to nothing, but I would really like to see that step taken first.
I would, as a select board member, listen, I know your hobby. I love trains, okay? You love planes. And everybody, you can't deny them their right to enjoy their hobby either. But a couple of things that I am concerned with is the way that invitation was written.
And it's taken care of.
I think that was poorly written, number one. Number two is, I really think you as a group, since you're gonna be flying all day, I really think with 100% certainty, you can limit the night flying to electric planes only. I don't think that's asking too much of you, because you've got a chance to fly your planes all day. And I think that anything after dark, or I think should be electric. I mean,
I will say this, I'm not flying in this event. This is for competition pilots only. The people that usually come to our other event are fun fly pilots. These guys are competition based. They're young
well,
kids. and
somebody's in
adults.
charge of this event, are
Yes,
they not?
that's Eric, and he gets a hold of me, and then
Okay,
and check it
whoever
out.
is in charge of this event, I think you have to make, and I don't know if I'm speaking for the
You're
board or
speaking out of
not.
turn, I think, myself.
Well,
I mean, you're not going to allow me.
I believe, I want to say just a couple
Okay.
words on this. We've had different things in the town. We had a go-kart track. That was up here in Pownal Center. We had a couple of motorcycle tracks, 3 of them, I guess. They were in different areas in the town. Now, we had the Green Mountain Racetrack. Christ, you could hear them announcing way up, a lot farther than you could hear them airplanes. You could hear them announcing this stuff. And the valley was all lit up. You know,
7 days.
what
a
are
week.
we gonna be here? I appreciate, you know, the fact that you wanted to come to an area where there's nothing ever gonna bother you.
That's just
But
not-
this, we're kind of dying for something that would bother us. If we had a little industry, maybe an event once in a while, I'd love to see a concert come there 2-3 times a year.
Concerts would be
I'd like to see any of this stuff. I'd like to see these guys fly their airplane.
You're all for a 5-day event?
music.
And I mean, they're going to be a motorcycle rally down there. Them people didn't cause any problems, did they? They've been there
It's an event that
before.
goes 1 day, 2 days,
Did you remember the
but
Well,
it's
this-
not every day.
This is not every day.
We're not there every day. Honestly,
But people
Sunday's the
come
main day.
sometimes, you know, on a Wednesday.
Sunday's the main day.
And you know
They
what?
advertise, anybody can
we
come
can't
and use it
control
anytime.
that. We cannot control
But see,
that.
this is
you
where,
want to.
this is where your meeting could be. You may be able to get together with these guys where your motorized planes could have an event on a Friday night. And then Saturday night, it was only electric. I don't know.
Right,
I'm speaking out of turn
No,
now.
you're right there, and that's why we ended up on Sunday, because our president, he owns a restaurant, and Sunday's his only day off, and he comes and cooks for us, and that's why we've been flying pretty much basically only on Sunday. The guys that fly during the week are small planes. I can't
That's what
believe you
I'm
can't even
saying.
hear them at the house.
If
They're
you
not-
I can hear
guys,
them.
if everybody could get together and discuss this, you may be able to come out with something that's maybe not 100% happy, maybe not 100%, but at a breaking point where everybody says, okay, let's try it, maybe this will work. I mean, this is better, after you've hit somebody, you can't talk anymore. And the hitting turns everybody into fighting, and we get nowhere. I don't like anybody to walk out of here upset saying, boy, they didn't listen to us. Because I can sympathize with both ends of this. I remember the racetrack, I could hear it from my house, and that's far enough away. But, hey, it brought industry in, I made money off it, a lot of people did.
Jimmy Winchester does very well at our event, and during Sundays, we
And
buy all our
it's
food
something.
in town from him.
Is it
when we buy
what we
food.
totally want to survive on? But we need
Yeah, and
something,
American Legion.
but we need everybody to be comfortable too. And it's working together.
We were lied to when we bought the house. We had no idea.
That's not our problem either. And I mean, I sympathize with that, but we get complaints in here where people come in and say, I can't stand my neighbor, I can't stand this house next door.
Right.
I
But
didn't
your
buy
job
that house.
is what reasonable people.
Well,
But this is a little bit bigger.
I know, but
Reasonable
you
people
still,
don't sell fake
you know,
letters.
You're
you hear-
minimalizing it,
On-
unfortunately.
on a slam point, and I'm not saying this to be sarcastic, but I'm gonna tell you something, if I bought property anywhere in Pownal Village, across from the racetrack or next to it, the very first thing I would look at would be 150 acres with a large grandstand and say, I wonder what that's gonna be in the future. Because you gotta think, is it gonna sit dormant forever? Or is it gonna turn into something? You're spending serious money buying a house. You're buying your livelihood with your dream. You don't wanna live at the end of an airport. You don't wanna live in a sewer treatment plant.
Live at the end of an airport.
But
We didn't know.
you look at something, but the racetrack was there when you bought.
Yes,
You
and if
have
it-
to
we're not
project.
against developing the racetrack.
But
If the racetrack were developed, you would do a 250. There would be, you know, conversation about what noise was produced. There's no conversation about the noise.
We were going to enact 250. We've been through one, flying colors, and they were there flying. And we did do a noise study. We had
right,
top of the line sound
what is it,
meters.
70 decibels, something like that?
Right, completely around the whole track, up your road, down through the woods, we had it everywhere, and it all passed with flying colors. The only thing it didn't was the train when it went through, and the rock crusher when it was running, and they moved the rock crusher over into the back of the pit. But the Flyboys didn't even hit 70 decibels.
Do you know that the aeronautics club that they belong to recommends that they never fly before 1 o'clock on Sunday, and that they never fly at night, and they never fly before 10 during the week?
Recommendations are fine, but law is what we have to do. We can't go by.
During the week, I come by that place 2, 3, and 4 times a day, and I see one trailer there every now and then. Never seen an airplane. I see a trailer there.
That's
I'd
Johnny.
be happy to call you.
That's John. He watches
He's
the,
our watchman.
he keeps the
I
drug
don't
dealers
see him
out.
flying there every day of the week.
Obviously,
Guys,
you're not willing to
It's
do
not,
something.
we're not willing. What I would like to say is, have a meeting of the minds. We're more than willing to have you come back after you've discussed this together, had a group, had a mediator come sit at this meeting, discuss this, and bring back your results to us. That
And
you did get together, you didn't get together, or everybody agreed to this. And you would like
Can I
everybody
just
to
ask
walk
you,
out
'cause
with this.
this is for you, because I know you're, can I do one night flight? That's it. When it first gets dark, that's it. It'll be before 10, it'll be like 9 o'clock. It's a 10-minute flight.
Well,
The people, you gotta,
I'm not-
I'd
I'm
love
not-
you to come down and see it, because if you
I'm
saw
not
it,
giving you permission to do anything or denying you.
Says right here,
it's not illegal.
Saying-
10 p.m.
I'm saying,
Decimals.
you know, be a little bit flexible. That's what I'm saying, okay? Obviously, excuse me, obviously we have upset neighbors.
Right.
Okay? This is quite obvious. And you have to understand too that this whole thing going on, there's an element of respect. That's all I'm saying is an element of respect. And I really don't think it would break your heart and life would stop for you if you did not fly your plane at night and it limited just to electrics.
Have you
Now,
ever seen them planes flying at night with the lights? How beautiful.
I
they are?
really haven't.
You know what
I'll
I mean?
be honest with you, but
I mean, come on, the
I'm-
guy wants
I'm
to fly
saying-
a couple times.
he's flying all day.
Tell you three
I won't be. It's a competition. It's not me in the
That means
competition.
not.
I'm the show after dark.
three people I can bring in here will tell you that they've almost caused accidents on the road because people don't know
Well,
that they're model
again,
flights.
we can't control that.
Cell phones cause a lot of accidents
Yeah,
too, and
we can't
everybody's
control
got one.
that. You know,
We need to get back to the original, would you people be willing to meet?
I would.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I would suggest you call Nelson Brownell as your mediator. Okay, and
When you,
I've
when
talked to
you,
Nelson. He knows the stuff. He's,
Get
okay,
together.
when you leave here, have a, I won't say a chairman, but a leader, okay?
Walt,
Take,
are you
take
volunteering?
the names,
Okay.
who's the who to get a hold of. Call Nelson, set this up, give yourself a meeting time. If you need a place to meet, set it up so you have a place to meet. Discuss this, have a meeting of the minds, see what you come out with. Maybe it won't come out to nothing, but at least you've given it a bit.
So the thing is about ordinances. You can set any ordinance you want, but that is going to have to apply to everybody. Not just, you cannot do anything other than that. It's got to apply to everybody, otherwise you're going to be accused of discrimination.
it can't be plane specific either.
Right, that's what I
Well,
mean.
let's
You're
say
gonna-
if
saying.
you were gonna have a huge family reunion at your park, your place,
Call us.
you hire Rich to DJ. He has to keep it so low you can't hear it, because the neighbors gonna complain. You want that?
It says the standard is
70 decibels.
Could I suggest something low-tech here?
Sure, could you come on up here and
You're
identify
gonna have to. The
yourself?
lawnmower came in the other door.
Better get an ordinance
My
passed.
name's Walt Clinton. Okay, I have some background in environmental stuff and health safety and other stuff. I worked for the railroad for 20 years. We were constantly exposed to noise. I have hearing loss from working on the railroad. What they did do for us, because they couldn't make the noise go away, is they gave us some pretty good earplugs to wear every day. Now, I'm not trying to trivialize this, but as a low-tech solution, 3M makes a very nice earplug that you can still hear what's going on in your environment, but it'll cut that background of hum. My wife used to work at the hospital before she died. She had patients who couldn't sleep at night because all the damn noise going on in the hospital. I bring home earplugs for her, give to her patients. It allowed them to cut out enough of the background so that they could get some rest. It might work, it might help, and if it's only on a Sunday for 8 hours, maybe it's worth putting in the earplugs once in a while just to cut down on the aggravation and noise. Won't make it go away, won't solve the ultimate problem, but it may make you feel a little better, it may make you be able to function better in your environment, and it doesn't cost a whole heck of a lot.
I've tried that at home. I put earplugs and mowed the lawn and could still hear them.
Well, you're still going to hear it because the
Well, then-
earplugs allow you to hear, but
Okay,
it's going to cut down the noise that is so annoying.
It's still, I can still hear
I
them.
mean,
Th-
I-
Thank
I've
you,
tried
Walt.
it. Believe me, I've tried.
I'll get you some good earplugs.
Yeah.
if you like.
I'll get
Try
you some
the
free
meeting,
jets.
try the meeting of the minds first.
You could get
We're
me
more
the
than-
noise, the $300 noise eliminators. I'm not gonna, I don't have
You
the
know,
money to spend.
have a meeting of the mind, folks,
You
come
guys
back
aren't
to
providing
us
with us.
on your results, how it worked out. That's the first step. you guys talk and see if you can resolve this in a comfortable manner. We're here for everybody, and it's
I
hard
don't
to,
feel that at all.
well, I'm sorry you don't, but, you know, we can't,
you can. You absolutely
And Steve,
can.
I'm really not
No, we
opposed to the
can't.
meeting. I'm actually for it. That letter that was sent really irritates me
this
to no end.
bothered me.
Not that letter.
Well,
the letter
this-
that was sent from Angelo that was not sent from Angelo. That somebody in whatever group.
But
I
this,
kind of
this,
an idea.
Scott,
Don't
this
look
bothered
this
me
way,
only because of the wording.
Right, and that's
And,
changed.
and
I
being
have no idea.
layman and not
And this-
knowing what it
And
means.
understand, this isn't a flyer that's being hung up. This was taken off of the IMAC website or AMA website, which is only Fort Pilots.
What it did was it stirred
Right,
a pot.
and we had, right, and I understand that reading that, and we talked to Eric and he changed it.
No, it's
The letter's a big thing. Angelo said he was pretty sure to call the police about it.
well,
Yeah, I'd like to have the letter actually, the actual envelope. I'd like to have the envelope.
Yeah.
No, I want the envelope.
Yeah, give you a copy of that after. Okay, so you people set up a meeting.
When's this gonna
Good.
be?
If worse comes to worse,
Come down, they pull the jink right
that's
down.
when.
That's gonna be up to them. They'll set it up amongst
That's for
themselves.
applying for our.
What I would suggest is when you leave
Right.
Scott, when's?
Well, actually, there's.
out in the other
Act
room,
200 is
set up
15
who's the
year
contact, who's gonna contact Nelson, where it's gonna be. So you guys can kind of organize
okay,
this.
we've got two
I've
different
already-
conversations.
Amy's got lawyer.
I'm sorry.
Guys, when you leave here, go out in the other room, set up who's gonna be the contacts from the airplanes, from the neighbors, so they can
Is that it?
contact Nelson, get this together.
Yeah, perfect.
So,
And you were telling me about what permitting, what were you just talking about? Excuse me?
Pardon me, huh?
What were you just talking about, a permit or something? I was trying to.
No, there's
not a permit.
It's not a permit, it's just, it's a thing for the state of Vermont Department of Public Safety. All it is, it's an assembly permit, but it has stipulations involved. The event's gonna have 2,000 people or more attending, admission will be charged, and you cannot attend the event unless you pay admission. The event is not a cycling or running event, so on and so forth. Then it has just on here, it says view the statute, you just click on it and it shows you the statute.
okay. Okay, so if you folks want to, you can stand here for the rest of the meeting, or you can go out front and organize
Fee for visitors down
how you're
I'm
going
gonna stick around
to.
because I want that letter and a copy of
Okay,
the.
all
I
right.
gotta ask you a question.
And
Now, are you required to have a bond or
Yes,
insurance policy?
and we have,
Every pilot has insurance, the field has insurance.
tax appeal and
the event
supervised
is sanctioned,
easements.
which is extra insurance. I think it's almost.
lawnmowers, we have it all
The
tonight.
event is sanctioned through the CE.
We've got it
which is
all.
Eric Atkinson's. He has event sanctioned insurance, which is separate from the AMA insurance, but the field has the charter. If you go on the AMA website, you see our field's charter, which means it has insurance.
I'm gonna tell you something. See the date on this?
Yeah.
I got this from Nelson Brown.
Yeah.
He notified us on that day. Prior to that, nobody heard of this. Anything about it.
The planes or the IMAC? Oh, and this is our personal insurance. Everybody who flies there required to have it.
Right. Okay, guys, can we get back on focus
I'll
here?
stick around. I'm gonna go out and cool off and.
Thank you.
Bring some back, will you?
And you see that flip started off with just Scott and one other guy, and I left.
Okay, we've got
I was gonna open it,
a
but.
couple things that are coming up.
You guys gotta do it.
Hey,
We have to the Pownal Select Board, Pownal Board of Listers, the grand list abstract. There'll be a grievance hearings will be held July 10th, 2013. Whoa,
that was yesterday.
that was yesterday. Okay, that was taken care of. Okay. So they were beginning at 10 a.m. is when they started. Okay, now we will go into legal. We have tax appeal. We have superfund easements, and we have personnel. We have 3 legal executive sessions to go into personnel and the superfunds. I don't believe there may be 2 decisions, but hard to tell. But anyways, I'll need a motion for at least one of the executive right now,
Going executive,
and that would be on a tax appeal.
tax appeal.
Need a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I can't hear.
Dale.
Dale.
What'd you say?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I'd like to say something to him, I don't know.
Okay, we are in executive session. Thank you.